Mad over madness, grind over habit. We never had it. Check off the box on the bag list. Now we established from the block to the palace. Usage and salvage. Now we about it. Traveling thousand. Rich or poor, we breaking the balance. Wanted change, still at the ballot. Didn't get a thing, so I still with my talent. Up in the clouds, collecting the mileage. Soon we hit land, we up at the challenge. Dodging anything that's bringing us malice. Got hit in the cup, can't sip from that chalice. Trying to see life from a different view. Checking all sides of my peripheral. We up now, that's the pinnacle. The inner you. Eyes stuck on the inner tube. Perception got them MV2. They all gas like an inner tube. Took a small break, just an interlude. Now we in the groove. Took a couple losses, we was 10-2. Before the turn, it was 10-2. Got it hand over hand like we 10-2. Cause when you down and out, they don't pin you. Still we made it. From the land where they take that, they don't play fair. Lost a lot of niggas, fell off with niggas, I don't really care. Hell with them now, whether tried to feel with them now. So we out here until we out of here, looking up now, past the stratosphere.
Came a long way, I was eating cereal, sell as fuck. Couple OT shifts back to back, that was 12 a month. Seeing pain often got me asking, nigga, what the hell you want? Rather pay up front before I pay up front. You could say I didn't, never say I won't. Fast forward, that's crash course. I was broke, unattached headboard. Used to laugh at me like was comical. We up now, astronomical. Our lowest points was a plateau. Blessed after being back dope. We was on the business and it went sour. We still made it, that's a different power. Gotta watch your 6 when they on your 20. Every day I smile through the horribles. Oracles telling me I got a few minutes, it was a quarter to. Vulnerable visions of making it out of it. Portable audibles, pardon me, possibly. Circle with smallest apostrophes. Making monopolies out of these lyrics, commodities, obviously. Welcome to the deli, felonies. He called allegedly. Fuel for the fire, especially. It was the recipe, open sesame. All this pain never overstressing me. God did, he was over testing me. Get a lesson, never get a lesson me. Back to business, cause he over blessing me. That's the turn, nigga. It's my turn, nigga. It's our turn, nigga.
Yeah! Yeah, y'all know it's that time. Excuse my lips, I had some red Gatorade. But we finna talk about it. This day turned out different than what a lot of people expected. Oh man, I didn't even do. I still got y'all with 720p. Hold on, I'm gonna upgrade. I'm gonna upgrade after this. Okay, I still ain't doing it. Look, 720p, 780, 480. Let's talk about what happened today. And I'm not gonna get too excited because we still have a long ways to go in this process, right? But I think what Microsoft did today was incredible. Okay? Let me do this. Let me bring this over here. Can y'all hear me? Yeah, let me do this. Hey, look. I don't want to say, look, I've been following this here. Before we get into it, I just want to say this. Since this deal or this merger was announced, I was following it, okay? And I was kind of clowned for that. You're an armchair lawyer. You think you're a litigator. You think you this. FTC post this and that. It's not about me being a lawyer. I'm far from a lawyer. It's just about me seeing something, right, that is foreign to me and trying to get an understanding of it so I can better understand what's going on, right? And how you do that. You read, you reach out to people that's in that field that's in the know, i.e. Hoag's Law, Idash from Reset Hour, even Florian Mueller from Frost Patent. You reach out to these people, you read their articles, you read their breakdown, you get their understanding from their years of experience in this area, and you take that information and you consolidate it and you put it in the most simplest terms to where you can understand it and the people that follow you understand it. Right? The only thing that gets me is when this happened is that people who clowned you for following this deal, and look, this deal is far from being passed, right?
It's far from being approved. Even from the EU perspective, they still got to process the presentation that Microsoft put out today. Microsoft made some incredible moves today and said, "Look, this is chess, not checkers." And I've said this before. I said Microsoft is going to do anything to get this deal approved, right? And that even though Call of Duty is in its own right is big in terms of its IP, it's not that significant. And Microsoft will be willing to give the regulators what they wanted in this case, i.e., Call of Duty going on Nintendo. And notice, we're going to talk about that too, because when he said Nintendo gamers, he never specified the piece of hardware. He just said Nintendo gamers. So people are assuming that he's talking about, it could be the next iteration of the Switch or the next iteration of Nintendo. Well, we're going to get into it. Let me stop. Let me stop because I'm getting ahead of myself. It's so much to talk about. I doze off, I took my insulin medicine. I take this pill that I'm gone. It knocks me out like boop. I don't. This is the only pill I take regarding my diabetes that, like, it knocks me. Like, I don't even know when I go to sleep. All I know is that I wake up and that I went to sleep. So I took that earlier today. So let me shout you guys out, because we got some information to get to, and I'm so excited. I didn't even know the presentation was going to be live like that. I knew it was going to be closed door, but it was people who was shout out to Tom Warren, shout out to Bloomsburg. It was people there taking photos and giving us minute to minute updates on what was going on. I didn't know it was going to be like that. I wish, what I'm saying? I wish I was up during that time, but I got some rest. I took that medicine. I only got to take it one time a day. So I'm up. It's up. You know what I'm saying? We finna get it cracking because there's so much to go over here, okay? And let me do this here. Let me turn that off. Okay, there we go. Yeah, okay, there we go. But it's up. And okay, there you go. I can really hear myself. Let me do my due diligence and give you all y'all respect and call y'all out. Shout out in the chat. And then we're gonna get this show on the road, okay? We're gonna get this show on the road. Let me close this out. Let me close this out. And let me put it over here. Let me do that here. Let me get that off the screen so I don't mistakenly put that on the screen and have y'all see that and be like, ooh, post, we did not know. Okay. All right. Okay. So here we go. Let me shout out to Psychonauts, man. Psychonauts 2 was an incredible game. Shout out to Real Nonstop Talent, man. Every day, every time we go live, I'm seeing some new names in the chat. Man, shout out to y'all. We really appreciate the support. The Blue One, another new name in the chat. Donovan was good. King Reaper 74G. And don't get the 74G mistaken. Y'all might not know what the 74G is, but understand, you know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna need, just understand what the 74G. If you're from Chicago, you know what 74G is. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Outlaw 2120. Shout out to Ozzy, was good, always showing up. The other Zinc, aka Ray Nam. You feel me? El Greco 17. Thriller Ali. What's good, brother? MC. We got Islands Gaming with Jay. The pastor has blessed the chat. I said the pastor has pulled up and blessed the chat. We also got to get Past on the show, man. Past is another one of them great dudes in the Xbox community that love Xbox, and we're going to get him on the show so y'all can hear what he got to say about the Xbox community and support his channel, because he got a YouTube channel dedicated to Xbox news too. And so if that's the kind of content that you like, make sure y'all unsubscribe to Island Gaming with Jay. We call him Pastor. So we're gonna keep going. Top notch box, what up? Bria was good. Who else? But who else? 22 was good, brother. We got Christopher Hart, Lionheart. I ain't talking about a lion in the jungle. I'm talking about a liar in the chat. You know what I'm saying? Christopher Lionheart. You know what I'm saying? That's what we gonna call him over here. You feel me? And then who else we got? We got eyes under the hoodie. You know he be on some sneaky stuff. If he got eyes under the hoodie, he don't want his face seen. You know what I'm saying? You know he creeping on the come up. You feel me? Okay, who else we got? We got Chia Walker was good. We got Double Knuckle, Elko Felko. You know what I'm saying? Double Knuckle was good. Double Knuckle. You know what I'm saying? Gen ED88 was good. True SSJ Havoc. What up? What's going on, brother? Then we got who else? Buddha 24. Buddha lover. And I love smoke. Buddha. Boy, that take me back to the Bone Thugs and Harmony. Buddha, don't you do that. Don't take me back to the Bone Thugs and Harmony days. Enzo was good. Dre Watson was good. And whoever else that's watching that haven't commented in the chat, thank you for your support. Thank you for showing up. We're gonna get started though. Where do I start though? I went to sleep and I woke up to so much news. It's incredible. What we're gonna start off with what Brad Smith initially put out yesterday, before this. Well, it was today because it was today in Europe before this presentation, right? So let me do this here. Let me go back here. So I'm gonna go over to Twitter, right? We're gonna start on Twitter. Let me open the tab up, right? I'm gonna open up a different tab because I'm gonna need multiple tabs open up. And let me make sure I don't have no DMs showing on the screen. Yep, there we go. Let me close that out. All right. And then we're gonna go here. All right. And because I got some immediately when this was published, I got some pushback. Let me see here. Where is it? Matter of fact, I can go to my timeline. And so what we're going to talk about is discuss the initial drop, how Microsoft started off today. And that was with the Nintendo news, okay? Let me get this on screen. Right? Let me show y'all. Microsoft ain't playing. And I've said multiple times on this channel, right? I said multiple times on this channel that Microsoft is going to do whatever necessary to get this deal pushed through, right? And you see that, right? So when this initially dropped, the first thing the ponies did was pop up to my comment section. We heard this before. They did the same thing with the FTC. They said the same thing with the FTC. It didn't work then, it ain't gonna work now. But those are the ponies that don't read, or at least read but cannot comprehend. And it's no disrespect, but that's why I'm here to educate and help you comprehend on what's going on now. Okay. Now, Brad Smith said, we've now signed a binding 10-year contract to bring Xbox games to Nintendo gamers. This is just part of our commitment to bring Xbox games and Activision titles like Call of Duty to more players on more platforms, right? Then the screenshot says Microsoft and Nintendo have now negotiated and signed a binding 10-year legal agreement to bring Call of Duty to Nintendo players the same day as Xbox with full feature and content parity. Notice he didn't say any hardware. He just said Nintendo gamers. So we don't know what aspect that Call of Duty is going to come to Nintendo. We don't know if it's going to be cloud-based, which I don't think is going to be cloud-based, especially from a multiplayer perspective, due to the technical aspect of Call of Duty. I think it'll be years before multiplayer like Call of Duty is on a cloud service. Now, single player, yes, but multiplayer, no. All right. So that was smart, right? Because you go back to the first time they announced this prior to the FTC deal, Nintendo hadn't signed the contract. They was in a verbal agreement or a handshake, you will, but the negotiations and the terms of the contract wasn't worked out. So we know from the time that they announced this new partnership prior to the FTC blocking, that Microsoft and Nintendo been in negotiation regarding the terms of this deal that now Nintendo has signed. Okay. Number two, back then they specifically stated the Switch when they brought this up prior to the FTC. If I'm not mistaken, somebody can prove me wrong. But now they said Nintendo gamers, right? That's smart on Microsoft, because by them saying the Switch the first time, that allowed the regulators to home in on the hardware specs and say, look, this don't mean nothing. Because we know from a hardware spec, at least from our understanding of it, that Nintendo Switch can't even run Call of Duty. So we can move Nintendo out of this market, right? And just leave it to you and Sony. And it allow us to, in terms of our agenda, to narrow the market between just you and Sony. Now, the way they're wording it, they saying we're bringing it into Nintendo gamers, okay? Which is different. Which now you can exclude Nintendo from this market, because you can't exclude it based on the hardware, because there's no hardware being mentioned in this specific statement. We're going to talk about it today. We're going to see what they ain't saying, because they jumped out on that limb. They jumped out on the limb on Twitter about 3 o'clock this morning telling me all types of stuff. But we finna educate them right now, right? We're about to educate them, right? So they switched up the wordplay. And I think it was smart on them, because now you're not making a commitment to a specific piece of hardware. You're making a commitment to Nintendo and Nintendo gamers. Now, however, whatever distribution system that comes to, whether it's hardware or cloud, that remains to be seen. But now you're not backing yourself in a corner with the Switch hardware, which from spec-wise is compared to the Xbox and the PlayStation, you know, I don't know spec-wise. So we're gonna keep it going, right? Nintendo players, the same day as Xbox, with full feature and content parity. So they can experience Call of Duty just as Xbox and PlayStation gamers enjoy Call of Duty. We are committed to providing long-term equal access to Call of Duty to other gaming platforms, bringing more choice to more players and more competition to the gaming market. I've said this too, that, and I think a lot of people in the Xbox community said this, that Microsoft should treat Call of Duty like Minecraft, right? Prior to Microsoft obtaining Minecraft as an IP, Minecraft wasn't on that many devices. It was not on a lot of devices. Minecraft didn't grow to where it is now until after Microsoft acquired them. And it didn't get on the devices that it's on now until after Microsoft acquired them. And in terms of what Microsoft is trying to do, Nvidia, you want COD? Go ahead, do your thing. You feel me? Nintendo, you want COD? Yeah, you can have it too. Because our outlook on this whole merger is bigger than Call of Duty, right? There's the mobile aspect of it, right? And there's another aspect of it that we have yet to talk about. But we're going to get into that. I got to get my man Everborn on the show for that, so he can break that down, because he brought it to my attention. And I don't think a lot of people really understand. The only one who put in significant in Call of Duty is Sony. Microsoft has other big plans with Activision and Blizzard and King, right? That's bigger. That's bigger than the COD IP. But we're going to get there. So when this came out, right, let me go back here. right? So when this came out, everybody was getting on Jeff K. I don't know why he made that. I don't know why he made that tweet, but we're not gonna go there. We're not gonna go there, right? So I retweeted this, right? And look at this, right? And I had to explain. I said, let me say this: when this deal was first announced, it wasn't announced in the same context, right? When it was initially announced, it was all about COD coming to the Switch, right? Now they're talking about Xbox games and Activision games, right? Which includes Call of Duty. The initial announcement didn't have that, right? Two, when the initial announcement was made between Microsoft and Nintendo, they had more so, like I said earlier, verbally agreed or what you call a handshake agreement, but it was confusion because people was unaware if Nintendo even actually signed it. And I remember arguments on Twitter saying, hey, Nintendo didn't even sign the agreement. So it holds no weight. It holds no water. You agree to something, but, and a lot of people said that even though Nintendo had verbally agreed to this or handshake agreed to this, that it held no water or weight with the regulators. I think that's different now, right? Because this is a new announcement. It's not the same. And I know people on Twitter were saying it's the same announcement. This is a new announcement. This is saying that between the time that the initial announcement happened on the verbal agreement prior to the FTC blocking the deal, that Microsoft and Nintendo negotiated terms that was beneficial to both for over a 10-year period, right? Hold on, let me do that. Over a 10-year period. They've now worked that out. Whatever those guidelines and stipulations are, they worked them out, and Nintendo has officially signed that 10-year agreement, right? And we know that agreement expands beyond just Activision and Call of Duty. It now entails, in some shape or some form, Xbox games as well. Is that Game Pass on the Nintendo Switch and further Nintendo hardware? Is that cloud streaming, xCloud, being accessible on Nintendo Switch or future Nintendo hardware? We don't know. Okay. We do know in 2020, Microsoft and Nintendo did a partnership because Microsoft helped them out with their service, to help them get their service together, their online service and things together. So Microsoft and Nintendo been, working together for years. And I think it's going to continue. So we don't know what it entails. All we know is that Nintendo officially signed the agreement that expand beyond the initial announcement prior to the FTC blocking the deal. So now it includes Xbox games and Activision games regarding Call of Duty. So I had to break that down because people were saying this is the same. No, this is not the same tactic. This is Nintendo officially saying, look, we are for this merger, right? And that ain't the only thing that happened that I was just privy to. We're going to keep going, right? So y'all know King Thrash, King Ashy Elbows. Y'all know King Thrash, Ashy Elbows, right? Shout out to you, David. Shout out to you. So y'all know him. And this is why I had to explain this, because he was the first one. They did this last time. Let me bring the camera down or so. He was the first one. They did this last time. A regulator was about to show blocking intent. They just want an outcry from the public to help them. Desperate. And I say, look, read the screenshot. And he brought up the tweet, right? The one at the top is the one that was announced at 3-something a.m. this morning, which was probably somewhere in the afternoon or lunchtime in the EU. I don't know. And the one from December 06. The one from December 06 says, our acquisition will bring Call of Duty to more gamers and more platforms than ever before. That's good for competition and good for consumers. Thank you, Nintendo Any day Sony wants to sit down and talk, we'll be happy to hammer out a 10-year deal for PlayStation as well. You see that? You see that? Nothing about Xbox games. It was specifically about Call of Duty coming to Nintendo. Up here, he says Xbox games and Activision titles like Call of Duty. So they're including other IP in Activision catalog with Call of Duty. It's a difference there. Like I said, the initial back in 2022, it was specifically about Call of Duty. It had nothing to do with other Activision titles. Now, with the new revision of this deal that they hammered out, it not only includes Xbox games in whatever context that is going to be applied, but also it includes other Activision titles along with Call of Duty. This is not the same deal. I don't think so, Spider-Man. I do not think so. You have to read what they're saying. You have to read what they're saying. And the reason why I think they mean what they're saying, I'm going to get to it. I'm reading, Spider-Man. I am reading. I'm reading what Brad is saying and what's in there. I'm reading both of them. Yeah, I know, Aaron. And it went from there to, Jesus. And this is another thing that came up. Jesus, they don't own ABK, bro. They can sign whatever they want to, if that's even true. They go to fight for ABK tomorrow. This is their strategy. Look, this is another thing I want to get out the way, okay? Because what King Thrash was saying here, along with other PlayStation people I've seen on Twitter, they say, well, how can Microsoft or Xbox sign this deal, right? And they don't own Activision, right? They don't own Activision. They just can't go around signing stuff and they don't own. And I was trying to explain to Thrash and other people, I didn't know I had to explain this to King Thrash because King Thrash told me, I think that was on Z Show, that he wrote contracts for a living, right? That he wrote contracts, like company contracts and stuff like that, agreements and all that he used to write them for a living. So I thought he would have been the last person that would have needed this explained to him, okay? And so I'm gonna just go up here. And I think it was, where is that? Let me go down here. And then we're gonna move on. I just want to get this out. So okay, so here it goes. And I use false patent. I pretty much wrote the same thing that false patent wrote. I did it in a more a simple term when I was explaining it to Thrash. But I pretty much said the same thing. It's a contract that is 100% binding, provided that a condition is first met. The condition is the consummation of the transaction, right? So you had a lot of PlayStations, like 3 PlayStation gamers hop in the comment section, making their own tweets, saying, how can Microsoft do deals with these companies and that company, and they don't even own ABK yet? How does that work? And it's this simple, right? It's this simple right here. You draw up a contract, right? And somebody else even wrote it right here. You put in a precondition for the contract to enter into force in a binding manner. Therefore, all obligations don't become binding unless the precondition occurs. In this case, the merger being closed. If the merger fails, the contract doesn't come into force, and no harm, no foul, meaning everything is voided. If the merger don't go through these conditions and stipulations and guidelines that we set out, right, that we put in paper and put in writing, they are voided. We no longer have to adhere to them. It's over. But if the merger goes through, then every stipulation and concessions that we're making in this binding agreement, we have to, as Microsoft, we are obligated, contractually obligated to adhere to and maintain for the next 10 years. Now, the only thing we don't know is when does that 10 years starts? Okay. When does that 10 years starts for Nintendo? Because we know it's going to take maybe 2, 3, 4, I won't even say 2, maybe 3 to 4 years to get COD out on the Nintendo platform. And the reason why I say Nintendo platform, because we don't know what iteration of the Nintendo hardware that COD is going to show up on. Okay. Right. And we don't know in terms of the agreement itself, if Nintendo or Microsoft stipulating saying, hey, your 10 years starts when the game launches on this platform, we'll whop the ban. So I don't want to assume that over the next 10, that Nintendo has over the next 10 years. I'm not going to assume that because we do not know when those 10 years starts, because we don't know what those contracts is saying. I did want to get this out of the way. For those that didn't know, that was kept asking, Microsoft cannot make deals for Activision because they don't own them. Well, you can have you can have binding agreements and contracts that are based on, prerequisites, right? If the deals goes through, we are bind to these stipulations and agreements. If it don't, this contract is voided, and we continue to do our thing. All right. All right. So we're gonna keep going, right? So let me go back. So we got that out the way. That was the first thing that I seen this morning, right? And since then, we have had some updates, right? Let me go here. And this what I didn't know. I just want to point this out. And this shows you the magnitude of this event, right? It shows you the magnitude of this event. We knew Google, EA, Nvidia, right? Sony, Activision, Valve. We knew they were going to be there. Even the European Gamer Developer Federation, who came out and said they are for the deal, okay? But I did not know that the German competition watchdog and its peers in Belgium, the Czech Republic, Finland, France, Italy, Portugal, Spain, and Sweden was also in attendance, right? That shows you how much other territories and other regulators rely on the FTC, the European Commission, and even the CMA in terms of how they're going to approach this deal and the choices that they're going to make, right? So hopefully we get to hear something for them soon, right? All right, so let's get to the meaty greedy. Let's get to going. After that, right? Let's see here. I said Nintendo is officially for this deal, right? And honestly, I don't know. Would y'all say this is, you reap what you sow, right? You reap what you sow. We know some of Sony history in this gaming landscape that goes back 2 decades, more than 2 decades plus. We know they came in spending $45 million on Six Gnosis, which was a big UK publisher at the time, right? We know they did over 254 deals with developers and publishers around the world at that time, because they understood that they was competing with Nintendo and Sega at the time, right? We know they spent decades of walling off content from Sega and Nintendo. Final Fantasy started on Nintendo. They spent decades of doing that, right? Even Microsoft, right? To maintain their market lead, right? And it comes down to this when Microsoft is trying to acquire Activision, that Sony is pretty much out there alone in their disagreement with the deal. Nintendo was for it, right? Valve, EA, which it helped them. Take-Two president came out and said he's for the deal, right? You didn't need to hear nothing from Ubisoft. You don't hear nothing from Ubisoft. Hey, we ain't got no problem with them over there. Let them do their thing, right? Because this actually helps them too. The EAs, the Ubisoft with the Rainbow Six and the Apex and things like that. But we'll get into that later, right? Nvidia comes out and says, look, we have issues with the deal, right? We have issues with the deal, but we're not necessarily against it, right? And when I first took that, all I seen was Nvidia saying, look, Microsoft out here giving Call of Duty away like that? We need, because you guys remember that Nvidia put a lot of games on their streaming service, or allowed a lot of games to be streamed off their service that they had to remove because they didn't get proper consent from Activision, Microsoft, Sony, and other IP and other publishers. Y'all remember that? Y'all remember that? Activision had to remove COD and all that stuff from their service because they gamers were streaming it from their service without proper consent from Activision. Right? So Nvidia seen this as an opportunity. And remind y'all, the PlayStation people kept bringing up, yeah, Nvidia is against the deal. You know, Microsoft blocked them from getting that blocked their arms deal. So this is payback. Remember that? Remember that. Remember they said Nvidia is against the deal because they finna pay back Microsoft for being against the arms. Well, this is two different deals. That arms deal is way different than what's going on right now, right? And Nvidia knew that, right? You had national security issues there, right? You had one GPU manufacturer who was about to monopolize pretty much a whole sector of the GPU industry. Now that would have been a monopoly. They would have been able to control prices and stuff like that and things like that. But this here is different. Nvidia say, look, they out there, if they're willing to get Call of Duty to Nintendo and they saying Sony can have, well, why can't we have it on our platform? Right? So we gonna go look. We got issues here. We up the ban. We just wanted to be fair. We up the ban. Microsoft, look, what you want? All right, we're gonna send all our Xbox PC games over there, and we're gonna give you Call of Duty. You good? Yeah, we good. Nvidia is now for the day. And prior to this meeting, too, everybody said Google and Nvidia was on with Sony, was against the deal. Well, guess what? Nvidia got what they want and they now for the deal. And Microsoft is now negotiating with Google. So that leaves Sony by themselves. Now the negotiation with Google, we don't know how to make play out. Maybe Microsoft say, look, you got some crazy streaming technology over there in Stadia that you just shut down. Okay. You got some crazy, we'll help you out. Let us license some of your technology for our cloud service. We both eat off this. I'm just saying. Hey, Play, I gotta talk about it. I ain't even get into it yet. Okay. So these were small updates prior to um um the presentation, right? Had came out and said ahead of the meeting and talking with the press, Brad Smith said that we are more than willing giving our strategy to address the concerns that others have, whether it is by contracts like the one we did with Nintendo this morning or by regulatory undertaking as we have consistently been open to. All I want to know is how this is going to impact the CMA now. But we're going to get there. I don't want to get ahead of myself because sometimes I skip and I jump around, right? MLEX understands that although Sony has refused the idea, and we're going to come back to that too, that licensing deals with ease competition concern, it is engaged in talks with the Xbox maker on potential remedies. The statement of objections is still pursuing all three theories of harm against Microsoft that were mentioned in November, operating system, subscription service included. I never understand the thing with the operating system in terms of Windows, because in terms of cloud and Game Pass, you don't need Windows operating system to access cloud gaming or Game Pass, right? Right. iOS, Google, Android, Chrome OS, Mac OS, Windows, Linux. Um, you don't need a specific hardware to access cloud gaming, or you don't need to rely on a specific operating system to run cloud gaming, or even from that game, or even Game Pass either. It's all operating system that supports it. Now, you feel me? Now, once Apple, whatever that goes down with Apple, where they can get a native Game Pass app on iOS, is there in Mac OS. I can go on my web browser and access xCloud from the web browser and play easily without a Windows OS. So I never understood that argument, but we're going to keep going because we're going to get all the way up into the live presentation. Now, all of these updates are prior to the live previewing, okay? And Microsoft and ABK have briefed the European Commission on potential remedies to ease competition concerns. Microsoft and ABK had 45 minutes this afternoon to address the topic, followed by a 15-minute Q&A session. Sony has cemented its position as the main opponent to the deal and is being granted twice the time to intervene on the hearing than other third parties are. Sony had 30 minutes reserved for its presentation, whereas Nvidia, Google, Valve, Electronic Arts, and the European Games Developer Federation each had 15 minutes. This morning, the commission has heard presentations by Phil Spencer and Bobby Kotick explaining the rationale behind the deal. There were also interventions by advisors from Microsoft and ABK about why the deal doesn't pose competition concern. Brad Smith will deliver the final remarks to close the hearings. Now, we're going to get to that. Hey, Post Up, just wanted to say thanks again for all your coverage of this historic. Yes, Andy, because it is historic. And people looking at this as another, no, this is the acquisition on this scale, right? And the money has been, this is the biggest acquisition in gaming in the tech industry history, right? It's bigger than all that. In tech and gaming, this is the biggest acquisition ever. Also, we know the outcome of Meta and FTC losing the case there. That case and this acquisition will determine the future of acquisitions in terms of tech and gaming, right? So everybody is watching. All the big tech companies, right? In gaming, and outside of gaming, everybody have their eye on this deal, right? Because this deal will dictate how big tech and other companies in gaming move over the next years in terms of acquisitions, right? Because now there's no, well, in terms of the United States and how Lena Khan is moving, right? She took deals to court that were not winnable, even though she knew they weren't winnable. She still took them to court, right? And then she took deals to court that they knew they could win, right? But they win percentage over the deals they've been taking to court over the last couple of years haven't really been good, right? So since Lena Khan came out and said, look, whether we know we can win or lose, we still going to take you to court. We still going to apply pressure. Well, from big tech perspective, that says, look, well, let us hold on, right? Because what you're saying is if we acquire something and we're doing it in the right way, right? And we're crossing the T's and dotting the I's, just because we're big tech, you're going to try to take us to court, right? And stretch it out and force us to drop the case. Or you're going to make it hard for us to acquire it, even though we're doing things right, right? So basically what you're saying is that you're not showing us no guidelines or rules or stipulations that we need to follow in order to satisfy you to get deals approved. We don't know what it is, right? So if this deal goes through with Activision, the Meta deal, the Meta beat FTC, whatever comes of this, it will kind of give big tech clarity on how they need to move in terms of acquisitions, right? Acquiring, because each of the regulators, the FTC, the Europe Commission, and the CMA, they all communicate and they all have this agenda to crack down on big tech. Well, what is cracking down on big tech? You mean to tell me just because we're big and able to buy that we can't? Okay. Well, what comes along with that if we are big tech? What procedures or guidelines do we have to follow in order to acquire something? They're not out there. So big tech is sitting back there watching the Meta case, right? They're watching the Axion case in the Supreme that's going on in the Supreme Court that people was expecting to answer by June. That if the Supreme Court rule in favor of Axion versus the government, that the FTC, the SEC, and the Department of Justice will no longer be able to use their internal court system to bypass federal court to pretty much use their internal court system to prolong deals for years and years out, forcing companies to drop the merger or the acquisition due to how expensive it gets over that specific period of time, which is what the FTC is trying to do with Microsoft, right? But if Microsoft get approval from the European Commission, if they get the go ahead from the CMA, then that puts the FTC in a position where Microsoft can be able to call their bluff. Microsoft going to say, look, we got the CMA approval, we got the European Commission approval. Since you haven't took this case to federal court to file for an injunction, we're still able to close the deal because there's no pending injunction to block it from the federal court or circuit court. So we're going to close this deal and we're going to call your bluff. And either you're going to do one or two things, right? Right? You'll probably proceed in your internal court system, or you're going to go directly to the federal court where you know you don't have a case, right? Well, you know you don't have a case. Now, you might take it there. You might, because you've been wasting taxpayer dollars. You've been wasting our money for this whole time. You might take it there, right? But we know you're going to lose. Because every analyst, right, every commissioner, previous commissioner that has been a part of the FTC, every analyst, every M&A lawyer that has an understanding of what's going on, right, has said that the FTC doesn't have a case. All right. So let's keep going. Hold on. Let me blow my nose. I swear I think I'm getting sick. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, I'm good, Sean. I'm good. Thanks. Sean, talk that shit. We bleed green podcast. Thank you for joining up. Thank y'all for supporting the show. Hey, don't pop the champagne yet, Phantom. We got a long way to go. Today was a big step, right? Today was a big step. So we're gonna go. We're gonna move forward, right? So shout out to Jez. I didn't even know Jez was there, but Jez said at a press conference in Brussels, Microsoft President Brad Smith just announced all Xbox PC games will come to competing cloud service Nvidia GeForce Now. Nvidia now supports the deal. And what did I tell y'all? I said this weeks ago, right? On Twitter. I can't go back. I ain't gonna go back to the tweet. But I said this months ago on Twitter that Nvidia sees that Microsoft is willing to do deals with God and with Call of Duty, and that they're going to take this, right? They're going to use this opportunity to get COD on a streaming service. And what happened? Yes, Aaron, it is an incredible move. It is an incredible move because you know why? You know why? And I know a lot of people are going to say Microsoft is going third party. Look, as a gamer, right? We have choices, right? We have choices where we choose to play and access our content. Some people are comfortable with playing their games solely on PC. Some people are comfortable with solely playing their games on console, on mobile, on cloud, wherever, right? And I will always say this, right? I don't care how many people can play Gears of War. I don't care if you're on a PC playing it. I don't care if you're on a Nintendo Switch or whatever, or Nvidia. I don't care where you're playing it at, right? Because I'm comfortable playing it on the Xbox itself. That's where I'm comfortable. If you got, well, that's cool. You doing your thing over there, right? That's cool. You doing your thing over there, right? Xbox is not going to grow Game Pass to the numbers that it wants to grow it to by walling it off. Well, totally walling it off. Okay. I think this was a smart move, right? Because you no longer you're cleaning up the opposition, right? You're cleaning up the opposition. I don't know if Nintendo at some point was opposed to the deal. I know they're not now. We didn't even know if Nintendo even responded to some of the regulators because they never put who actually was writing things. But we had an idea of when Nvidia was talking, when Google was talking. We definitely knew when Sony was talking, right? Pause. I don't pause. I don't do that. Shout out to Master Sip 40. Master Sip 40 with the $2. Great stream post. Thank you, brother. Right? Well, regardless if they was against the deal or not, they're for it now. We knew Nvidia said they wasn't opposed to the deal, but now they're for it because they got what they want. Content to their service. And that's not a bad thing. This is a great move, right? Because from my understanding is that in the way Nvidia streaming service work, you still have to purchase the game. You still have to purchase the game, and then you will be able to, after you purchase that game, you'll be able to, I guess, stream it from their service. And I ain't mad at that. Get them damn 4090s in the cloud, right? All right. So this is a smart move. He goes on to say, Microsoft brung all the tea, right? They brung all the tea, right? And they had an army. They had an army. And I don't know if Nvidia blindsided Sony, because everybody say, look, Google, Nvidia, and Sony are on the same team. They're all opposing the deal. Then you get there, you find out that that Nvidia just switched sides because they got what they want. And Google ain't really opposing it no more because they're now negotiating with Microsoft to get what they want. Like, this is this is crazy. This is a crazy day, but we're going to keep it going, right? Microsoft describes how Sony beats Microsoft Xbox market share globally to the tune of 75% versus 25%. Wow. That's crazy. And you crying? No wonder why you're giving Call of Duty the significance that it really don't have. Like I said before, Call of Duty is not in top 10 of the most sold games in the world. It's not even in the top 10 of the most highly rated games in the world. Gamers was just trashing Vanguard prior to Modern Warfare 2 coming out. People saying Activision lost its way. Call of Duty is trash. We need to find something else. Call of Duty ain't nothing. No more. Microsoft can have it. They lost 40 million. 40 million players after Vanguard dropped. Over 40 million players. This was being said. This was what was being said. To me, Call of Duty was never an essential input. And I've always said this. Yes. And I think in today's age, unlike in the 360 to PS4 era, especially with how games are being distributed through digital and somewhat physical nowadays, I think people are so ingrained in their ecosystem of choice, right? That it will take more. It will take more than a title like Call of Duty for them to uproot themselves out of that ecosystem, right? Thousands and thousands of dollars worth for purchases on PlayStation to specifically say they're moving to Xbox only. I don't think that happened in this day and age anymore, right? And I think most hardcore gamers, even though they have a platform of choice, right? Whether it's Xbox or PlayStation or Nintendo, most of them are multi-console owners, including myself. I have the Xbox Series X right here. I have the PlayStation 5 laying down over to my farther right. I had to lay it down because, that stuff came out about that, the liquid metal, so I was just, but look, I have both, right? So if I choose to, though the X Series X is my console of choice, if Sony ever releases something that catch my eye, i.e. God of War Ragnarok, Ratchet and Clank, Spider-Man, which I beat both Spider-Mans. I beat Ratchet and Clank. I beat God of War Ragnarok. I didn't beat the first God of War. But I have access to the hardware just in case if something in that ecosystem catches my eye, it's accessible to me. Right? And if you look at it from a PlayStation perspective, from a hardcore PlayStation perspective, yeah, they trash Xbox a lot, i.e. King Thrash, for example. but he has an Xbox, right? And he posted a screenshot of him downloading Atomic Heart off of Game Pass, despite him and other PlayStation running with the slogan "Support the devs, spend $70." But we're not gonna go there. We're not here to shame nobody, right? We're not here to shame nobody. We're gonna stay on topic, right? We're gonna stay on topic. All I'm saying that in this day and age, there's far more ways to access content than having to spend $300, $400, $500 on a piece of hardware, right? If I'm a PlayStation gamer and I want to access Xbox content, I don't have to put down $400 or $500. I could go spend $15 on Game Pass Ultimate and access it from a handheld, a PC, a laptop, or iPad, or whatever, right? So the cost of entry or the cost barrier has lowered for me to have my preferred console and to have access to other ecosystems in case I want to. So I think in this day and age, yes, Call of Duty is big, but it's not big enough to uproot somebody out of their preferred ecosystem that they have established thousands and thousands of dollars worth of content. Because the barrier and cost of entry to competitors' platforms is so low and you have so many ways to access that content, you don't have to go nowhere. Right? You don't have to go nowhere. Yeah, retro gaming, that's another thing. This is just an added benefit. Post talk about how Xbox Series X, and S can emulate older games. I'm seeing that amazing stuff on Twitter on emulation in terms of the Sega Saturn, the Nintendo, Super Nintendo, PlayStation 1, 2, even the PlayStation 3. Like, I think we're at a different period of time. If this was back then in the 360 PS3 era, then people had, in that time, people made a choice of leaving the Xbox ecosystem, right? And move over to PlayStation. But guess what? They still had their 360. Even after they moved over to PlayStation 4, they had their 360 to still have access to those games. Right? So that's all I'm saying is that it's different now. That's why I never understood the CMA's argument point after looking at the data of doing that survey. It's going to take more than Call of Duty to uproot a significant amount of PlayStation owners to Xbox. It's going to take more than that. And the only IP that I can know that can do that, probably 2 IP. And I know y'all might disagree, but that's cool. That's what we're here for. We can agree to disagree. We don't always have to agree with each other. Only important thing is what we attain from the conversation that we have, right? GTA is number 1. GTA, right, to me, is the number 1 IP that can uproot, right, a significant amount of gamers to one system. Literally. Therefore, it's an essential IP, right? Therefore, GTA has the ability to harm competition. I am agreeing with that. And for that reason and that reason alone, Take-Two is off limits. Unless GTA loses its prominence in gaming, unless it becomes insignificant, which I doubt, because the leaks to GTA 6 looked incredible. But GTA to me, and possibly Minecraft. If Microsoft, because you got to say it's over 400 million some Minecraft users. It's over 200 million, I think, in China alone. if I'm not mistaken, or 100-some million over there in China alone, right? Imagine if Microsoft was to restrict Minecraft to Xbox and PC only. That you're no longer able to play it on Nintendo or PlayStation. So I think that's an essential input, and I think GTA is definitely an essential input. I don't care. Now, that's where I will say, well, one or two things will happen. PlayStation gamers, hardcore gamers who love their PlayStation will force to get Xbox or find their way into the ecosystem somehow, given that it's multiple choices to do it, right? Right. Or people say, okay, look, I'm rocking with Xbox this generation. GTA has that power to do so. GTA has that power to do so. Let me get these super chats and then we're going to keep going. All right. Pose, when Sony says licensing agreements won't solve this, what do you think they want? I think MS gives up COD and keeps the developers. Microsoft is not giving up COD. They're not divesting, right? The merger agreement don't allow them to divest, right? They will have to rewrite, if they're thinking about divestitures, they'll have to rewrite the merger agreement in order for that to happen, okay? That's number one. From my understanding, I could be wrong. And if somebody in the chat knows better than me, please correct me. I'm not always right about this. I'm just saying from the understanding, from the things that I read in terms of the merger agreement, it is not just easy for Microsoft to say, hey, we finna break up and sell off. Call of Duty and stuff like that. I don't think they have to do it. I think concessions and things will be enough. Sony wants perpetuity. They don't want 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. They want forever, right? But in this day and age, in gaming, period, in the history of gaming, that is unprecedented because from Microsoft perspective, we can't assume that Call of Duty is always going to have this prominence, right? Who's to say that in the next 5 or 10 years, right? Who's to say in the next 5 or 10 years that Call of Duty still have the prominence that it has now? It's still as big as it is now. We don't know. And we can't assume that it will. So perpetuity is off the board. In terms of Sony let me get this over here. In terms of Sony and their licensing, Sony want to kill this deal altogether. And Sony is going to hold out until the license agreement is the only thing that's left. Because they're going to try whatever they can to block or stop this deal. It's not about a license agreement for them. Even though they've been in negotiations with Microsoft, they're still in negotiations with Microsoft. They want to block this deal because this deal affects the future of their business and their whole buy-to-play model. Right now, Sony, the way Sony has been successful and dominant over the last 2 generations plus, right? It's in jeopardy. It's being attacked. And that this deal can possibly open up doors for other companies that's on the outside looking in to come in and challenge Sony's market position as well. So Sony fighting for their life. They're fighting for their dominance. They're fighting to maintain their dominance. They're fighting to maintain their market lead. They are fighting for their buy-to-play model. And they're doing that now and this is just my opinion, because infrastructure-wise, right, when it comes to cloud, when it comes to streaming and things like that, they are behind the ball, right? And shit is starting to move now, right? We found out in one of the court documents that the CMA, in one of the documents in a provisional finding, a company that the CMA talked to that is working on their own streaming service. We don't know which company it is. We don't know if it's another publisher, right? But streaming in Microsoft has opened up a can of worms in terms of this streaming and this cloud and this multi-subscription service thing. That opened up a can of worms for Sony, right? Because it challenges their buy-to-play model, which they've been able to dominate for the last 2+ generations, right? And now if Microsoft get Activision, lower the barrier and the cost of entry for people to access Activision games as well as Call of Duty and be successful with it. But if COD did it, then we can. And so now Sony don't only have to worry about Microsoft. They now have to worry about Nintendo, company A, B, C, D, E, F, and so on and so on. And they don't want that. So they want to slow things down until one, they can get their cloud infrastructure at a point where they can compete. And two, their multi-subscription service, PS Plus. You see, after a year of Horizon Forbidden West being on the market, it's already on that service. This is another adverse effect of this deal. Because now a Microsoft and Activision deal with COD and all that being on Game Pass, right? Along with other companies coming in doing the same thing, it's going to force Sony to launch their IP day and date on their service a lot earlier than what they want to in order to maintain competition. So y'all gotta look. Shout out to Itchy with the $1. Thank you for the support. All right, y'all gotta look at this for what this is. It's bigger than just Call of Duty. Shout out to FPS Players, Grandpapa with the $20. Post up, Mellow Noah. Hope y'all brothers having a good day. Thank you, brother, and thank you for your support. The guys ain't with me today. They usually let me do. Let me tell y'all something. The guys, they tired of this conversation. Look, I'm the only one interested in this whole merger. So they usually let me do this solo. Post up, you go take that. We support you. Yeah, you over there do it. Okay. You got it. You know what I'm saying? And then shout out to Seafood Poetic X Initiative. That's a mouthful. With the $4.99. So PlayStation Card Forever will still not pass for Sony. So MS will be forced to play chess. They're playing chess now. We finna continue to read what they're doing. Sony wants COD in perpetuity, but you don't do agreements like that. Because we don't know what COD gonna be in the next 5 or 10 years. We don't have a crystal ball. We can't judge what Call of Duty gonna be in the next 5 or 10 years, right? So Microsoft describes how Sony beats Microsoft Xbox market share globally to the tune of 75% versus 25%. Excuse me. In Japan, it's 96% to 4%. Wow. And I'm guessing that's excluding Nintendo. Okay. And that's excluding, because I know Nintendo probably have a bigger market share in Japan than probably Sony and Microsoft. But if the regulators want to narrow this market to just Microsoft and Sony, okay, let's look at the numbers. We're going to exclude Nintendo, right? Globally, they outdoing us 75% to 25%, right? That's excluding Nintendo. So I'm guessing that, right? And in Japan, 96% to 4%. What are we doing here? What numbers are y'all looking at? All right. Jazz goes on to say, with Nintendo, we're bringing Call of Duty to 150 million more consoles that wouldn't have had it previously. So that sounds like a statement that in some form, whether it's streaming, cloud, or however they're going to do it, that they might work to get Call of Duty on the Switch. How they're going to do that, we don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Brad Smith describes a 2009 partnership with the EU to promote interoperability between Windows and other platforms like Google. Documents and how that deal was far more complex than what is going on with Activision. Let's say, look, man, this whole operating system, look, we got to deal with y'all. We had a deal in place since 2019. We got y'all. You feel me? Brad Smith literally has the document for Sony to sign to get Call of Duty for 10 years here. Ready and eager for dialogue with Sony, no agreement yet. So I think this was perfect. I think this was a smart move to show up in front of the regulators, the commissions, and all the people from the other countries to say, look, Valve said we didn't need no contract because they trust us to keep our word. That's how great we had a relationship, a repair relationship. Because back then, the head of Valve and Microsoft, they weren't always on common ground, right? Nintendo signed the deal. We got a 10-year deal with them, right? We gave Nvidia Xbox PC games and access to COD, right? Why is Sony the only one out here not signing? I think that was a perfect way to put Sony on the spot. We're already negotiating with Google. We don't know what's going to come of that, but they're already negotiating with Google, right? We don't know what's going to come with that. So why is Sony the only one out here complaining? Why they are not trying to work, right? Or to really negotiate and get a deal done? I think that was a smart move on Microsoft. Put them on blast. Put them on the spot. Put them on the spot in front of the regulators, right? Saying everything you've complained about, everything you have whined about to the regulators up to this point, we have the paperwork in the contract right here to solidify all that. Are you going to sign it? And in front of the regulators, the EU, and I'm pretty sure the CMA is watching too. I'm pretty sure they had their people there too. And all the other countries from the Czech Republic, Finland, Spain, all of them, all the commissions was right there in front and saying Sony didn't sign that contract. Right? And I don't blame them. Sony going to do what's ever in the best of their business, right? So you can't knock them, right? He said, we don't think it's reasonable or realistic for one part of ABK to be carved out on the topic of CMA divestiture suggestions. That's facts. Why y'all trying to make us divest Activision Blizzard over one IP that y'all only giving significance to is because Sony got the head start and jumped out and was able to shape the narrative. So shout out to Jay. I didn't even know Jazz was at the meeting. That's fire, right? Right. So this has been. I didn't expect this day to go like this, right? We all had our preconceived notions in terms of who was against the deal and who was for the deal. And Microsoft just came out and just, look, we do this. This is chess, not checkers. You came to this meeting with the expectations of certain companies been against the deal, and now those same companies are for it. You can't make this up. Now, does this mean that this deal is solidified in the EU? No, I think that's still a long way to go. I think the EU still have to do their due diligence in terms of what they heard from Valve, EA, Nvidia, Sony, you know, the European Gamer Developer Federation, and everybody else. I think they have to take that information, process it, and from there decide what their outcome going to be. Me, honestly, this is a vertical merger. It shouldn't even got this far, but I understand the political climate that's going on in the United States and around the world. I think it get passed. I think they don't have a case, right? I think they take the session, they take the win as making big tech, like Michael Pachter said, they take the win as saying, look, we made big tech concede. That's how I think it plays out. Shout out to Seafood Poetic. I'm just going to say your first name, brother, because the Seafood Poetic X initiative, that's a whole lot. You feel me? Truly, Sony is fighting the fact that Microsoft can afford to buy more publishers later. Imagine Microsoft, the angry beast left unchecked, devil's advocate. Well, I would say from here on out, since this merger and acquisition has shined a spotlight on the gaming industry, since regulators now know how much they lack in terms of understanding of this industry, right? I think that it's going to be more eyes on the gaming industry from here on out, especially since it's going to be it's the biggest entertainment industry in the world. I think this specific moment in time showed regulators that this industry went unchecked for too long in their lack of understanding and education in terms of how the history of the industry and how the industry works. I think that kind of put them in the spotlight. Look, I think this industry is going to, and you know that with the Digital Market Act that is going to go through this May, I think. This May. I think it passes in Europe this May, which is going to force Apple to open up their iOS and their digital app stores. And then you got the other one in next year that should be approved in 2024. But I think this really showed the regulators that they turned a blind eye to this industry for too long. I don't know if they felt it wasn't important or it was insignificant or anything like that. But you can tell through this whole ordeal that they didn't know nothing about the gaming industry. And now you understand why even Nintendo, if you look at their past and some of the things that they used to do, Nintendo, Sony, and all these other companies was able to operate. They was able to in order to gain the market share that they have now because the whole industry been unchecked for the last 30 years. And I think this deal is going to bring all that to a halt. I think the FTC, I think the CMA, the UK, European Commission, and every other regulators are going to be on the ball in terms of getting themselves up to speed on this industry, on the market, how the market shape, the future outlook, the players in it, and whatever. They're going to do whatever they need to get up to speed because once that next big acquisition from whoever it comes through, then they're going to have the knowledge. They're going to have the knowledge it takes to coordinate and work through it. Because this time around, they literally had to be taught. Microsoft literally had to sit down with them and say, look, this is the game industry. This is how it works. This is the market. This is the numbers and things like that. I think next time they are better prepared and that it doesn't get to this point. And we already seen policies and laws in United States Congress, in the EC, and the UK in regards to this industry. So, but believe me, after this will never happen again. And the regulators will never be caught like this again. They'll never be caught like this again. All right. So yeah, shout out to Seafood. Shout out to Seafood Poetic. Let me see here. Let me see one. Okay. Ooh, hold on. So I was right. We will make sure our games work the way people expect, with high technical standards, Smith says, of how Activision Blizzard games like Call of Duty might play on Nintendo platforms or Nvidia. So we're not gonna, this thing that Sony talking about, that we're gonna lower text and specs and make the gameplay worse on opposing hardware and all. We're not with that. We want to make money. We ain't trying to lose money. We want to gain players. We're not trying to lose players. But this right here, today's Nintendo deal relates to current and future Xbox titles for now, and then Activision Blizzard games if the buyout is included, Smith said. I told y'all. So, but that's only in the agreement. If the deal goes through, then Nintendo will get access to current and future Xbox titles for now, and then Activision Blizzard games if the buyout is included. So that's two things. So they did a deal. with Nintendo, where Nintendo is going to get access to current and future Xbox titles for now. And then if the deal goes through, they're going to get access to Activision Blizzard games. I told y'all it wasn't just about COD. Hold on, let me get this. Dirk Griggity with the $5. What's up, Post? Good job with all the updates about the ABK deal. This is very interesting stuff. Xbox came prepared. Yes. Shout out to Apollo Cooper with the $2. Next time, I don't think Microsoft will be asking. Yeah. So, people tried to tell me on Twitter that no, Post, and even in this chat earlier, who was that? Spider-Man was saying it only has to deal with COD. No. Today's Nintendo's deal relates to current and future Xbox titles for now, and then Activision Blizzard games if the buyout is included. So that tells me that Microsoft struck a deal to bring future and Xbox titles, current and future Xbox titles, to Nintendo for now. Right? They struck a deal for that. Why wouldn't they? Nintendo got over 150 million Switches out there. I don't know if that's going to be cloud or Game Pass or how that's work. I don't know if they're going to be native to hardware, but I'm thinking this cloud, I think it might deal with cloud or Game Pass being put on Nintendo Switch, right? And then Activision Blizzard game if the buyout is included. So that's the stipulation of the agreement. That's why I said this agreement is different from the one that was announced. When they initially announced it, yeah, that wasn't doubt. We're at the table with Nintendo. We're at the table talking and negotiating with the Nintendo. Now, this is the fruits of that negotiation. And this is crazy. Nintendo, and I don't know how I feel about this, right? I'm going to be honest. Because we ain't got a Super Mario or Mario Kart on the Xbox. What Nintendo first party IP we get on the Xbox or in the ecosystem? Huh? I don't know how I feel about this. I feel Microsoft always put themselves in a position where they got to give. Right? And then we, the gaming community, be like, okay, what are we getting? Well, what are we getting from this? It's a Mario. Is we going to get that on the Xbox? Is we going to get a Mario Kart on the Xbox in the cloud or something? Does this deal work both ways? Are we going to start seeing Nintendo IP, Metroid Prime, and all that on Xbox or in the cloud? Is Nintendo service going to come to Xbox? Because in that CMA report, the provisional findings, Nintendo did say that outside of their service being on their platform, that is going to be on another platform, but that platform was redacted. That company was redacted. For a thing, I know it's just games. I know it's just games. Look, I'm just saying, I'm just showing the opposite side of this. All right? I'm just showing the opposite side of this. Okay? I know Microsoft, and I've said this in the past, that they're going to do whatever they need to do to get this deal done or passed. I'm just saying, if Microsoft going to put current and future titles, right, on Nintendo Switch, and then include Activision games and Call of Duty if the merger goes through, right? Okay, that benefits Nintendo ecosystem and their customer fan base, right? Outside of Nintendo doing what they need to do to help this money, what's the turnaround? What's the impact on the Xbox ecosystem? Outside of Microsoft gaining access to 150 million gamers in the Switch ecosystem that they can sell their content to, because we're not going to assume that all 150 million people is going to just, attach themselves to Game Pass or cloud, or however this shakes out. I'm just saying, where's the Mario on the Xbox? I'm just saying what all Xbox gamers gonna say. And I'm gonna think. I'm just gonna be honest. I know these are just games. I know anything that, but okay. Will Nintendo service come to Xbox? That might be a thing. And if it does happen, you heard it here first. Game Pass goes to Nintendo. Nintendo service comes to Xbox. I think that's a swap. I think that's just, you know what I'm saying? I'm just calling it what it is, man. I'm just calling it what it is. Oh, this page, this thing is moving. Hold on, give me just a second here. Let me use the bathroom. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. My sorry, I had a revenge of the nerds moment. Whew. Okay, so we're moving along, and I'm gonna do a Q&A. If y'all got any questions and stuff like that, Apollo, no, that's my water pill. If you take water pills, bro, you do. Let me tell you something. But that's neither here nor there. My only question is this. Right? If at this point now, majority, if not all the companies that were against the deal, even went responding to the CMA, Google, Nvidia, are now for the deal and have worked out a deal with Microsoft, what does that put the CMA in their provisional finding? Top shot with the $2. Did you see Lulu meme about Sony? No, I haven't. Let's see here. Oh, my mentions. I got to check my what's the names. I'm going to do it over here, though. Because I do not want my... Let's see here. Let's look up. Oh, shit. Hey. Wow. Wow. Well, that says a lot. Look, man, I will say this, and I'm not speaking for Activision, and I'm not speaking for Lulu. All right. I'm not speaking for Activision. I'm not speaking for Lulu. All I'm saying is this, right? Hold on, Mello. I got a lot of DMs right now. Hold on. Okay, hold on. Let me make sure. Hold on. Let me do this here. I got a lot of DMs. Hold on. First of all, let me make sure my DMs is not on screen. Because last time I had on screen. And I don't want to. Okay. Okay, and we're gonna bring this up too. Shout out to my brother Everborn. Look, I will say this. And Mello, I got you. I just responded to the what's the name. I will say this, right? When all of this is said and done, and we get a final verdict, whether the deal goes through or not, I'm gonna bring all the. I'm gonna try to put together the most diverse panel of people that's been following this deal along with myself. I'm also going to try to get some interviews with some very special people. I'm going to just leave it like that with some very special people, depending on just the outcome of. We just got to wait on the final the verdict of the deal. But I'm not speaking for Activision and I'm not speaking for Lulu. This is particularly my opinion. But if I'm a company, right, and I've been working with this other company, and we both been getting bread for a long time, right? Right? We both getting bread. Oh, we good. We got a good relations. We holler at each other on the phone. New year coming up. Let's try to get to this bag again because it's going crazy right now, right? Then a $70 billion opportunity comes along, right? For me, right? For me and my people, for me and my company, look, I got 70 billion on the line. I know we've been getting to our money and stuff like this, but I think this is a perfect opportunity, not only for myself, for my board, my shareholders and all that. $70 billion, we eating good over here. Right? You wouldn't expect the company, well, this business, but in some cases, you wouldn't expect the company you've been eating with and helping getting billions to give you this much pushback to the point they trying to mess up your 70 billion. Now you messing with my plate, right? We've been getting money for all these years. You see me, I got this opportunity. Well, I guess that company looking over there like you over there with the ops, though. We can't support you working with the ops. So I think that'll cause issues with the relationship. Hence, Bobby Kodak say, look, Sony won't even return our phone calls. But with these memes, but with this, and this is coming from Lulu, who, let's see here. Lulu is the EVP Corporate Affairs and CCO Activision Blizzard. Right, Activision Blizzard. Right. So, hey, I guess that, hey, I don't know. Y'all tell me, is that deal dead? I mean, not the deal, but is the relationship between Activision and Sony soured? Obvious business, yeah, it's $70 billion, $70 billion worth of business. I don't know how you come back from that. I don't know how you tell me that I'm against you getting 70 billion, block the deal, and then trying to come back to the table and say, let's keep making a few billions, even though you was about to get 70 billion. But let's just keep making a few billions that we was making. Let's just keep making the few billions we was making at first. That ain't bad. In 20 years, it'll add up to 70 billion, maybe. Yeah, I know. That's a lot of money, bro. That's a lot of money. To tell somebody you're going to block the deal, then after you block the deal, try to come back to the table and say, okay, let's get back to these few billions we was just making since you can't get that 70 billion no more. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. All right. I don't know about that. But this is funny. Sony refusing to accept guaranteed long-term access to COD. What if we lose access? Then playing victim. Tripping itself up and then playing victim. Because my perspective, Microsoft didn't clear the battlefield. EA, Valve, Take-Two, Nvidia, all of the CWAs and the union, the biggest unions in the world back it. Right? Some of the biggest publishers in the industry backs it. Right? Your opponents now back it between Nvidia. I'm hearing you're negotiating with Google now to get them situated. And now you, Sony, you're out there on the battlefield by yourself, right? You're playing victim. You're out there playing victim. You're dominating the market and you're playing victim. Right? Let me do my little eye emoji I always do. Right? You're out there playing victim, right? So let me do this. And I just wanted to hop on it because it's only so much you can say in a tweet. I just wanted to hop on here and give my perspective of everything that took place. Let me see, what is this here? This guy be on it too. The hearing has already been held in Europe. Yeah, man. Microsoft and ABK talked about 45 possible remedies. Okay, so Sony is going to stay with the license agreement thing side of it, and the reason why I think they stay with it because their last hope is the CMA. All right, we know the EU commissioner has always been open to concessions. Previously, Vestager came out on an interview last year saying that if Microsoft offers concessions, they'll be able to get this deal done and through, right? I think Sony is going to stay the course. I think they're not going to sign an agreement, even though they're in negotiation. They're going to prolong it. They're going to continue to prolong it because they're betting on the CMA to either force a divestiture. They're betting on the CMA to force a divestiture. And I'm pretty sure Microsoft, let me bring this up. I'm pretty sure Microsoft is not going to go with that. Let me bring this up here. I don't even think divestitures is an option for Microsoft. And if I was in Microsoft's shoes, it wouldn't be an option for me as well. Bring this on screen. Microsoft sees no Activision deal without Call of Duty. Point blank. We're not selling off parts of Activision or Blizzard, King, and none of that. We want all of it. Software giant Brussels showdown with EU officials. President Brad Smith speaks after day-long hearing on deal. Let's see here. Smith struck an optimistic tone Tuesday after a day-long meeting defending the controversial deal. He said PAC struck with Nintendo and Nvidia to share the game with their platforms meant that as many as 150 million more people would get access to it if the Activision deal is approved. UK regulators have suggested a potential remedy to carve out Activision's most successful title would be required to get the deal approved, right? That's why Sony is not going to sign any agreement now, because their last stand is with the CMA. If the EU approves this, if the EU accepts the concessions that Microsoft has put forth, if they accept the fact that Nintendo and Nvidia, who was once so much of opposed to the deal but had issues with the deal, it's now forward that Microsoft has done a deal with Nintendo and Nvidia, right? And they say this is sufficient, right? In terms of not only are you sharing, right, Activision IP, but you're sharing your own IP as well, right? If that becomes sufficient enough for the EU and they pass it, then Sony last stand is with the CMA. And that's why Sony keeps saying, up here, where is that? That the licensing deal is not sufficient. It's not going to work. Sony either want a block or a divestiture. My thing is, I'm betting on they want it blocked. They want it blocked. They want all this to go away. They want all this to go away. So let's see here. UK regulators has suggested a potential remedy to carve out Activision's most successful titles will be required to get the deal approved. And what is Sony saying now? This right here. That Sony are reiterating the ideals of the UK right now. We don't think a licensing agreement is sufficient enough. So they're saying the same thing the CMA is saying. And the CMA, even from the phase 1 and the phase 2, in terms of the phase 2 and the provisional findings, have been regurgitating a lot of what Sony's been saying. If you're reading right, because we know a lot of what they said in phase 1 came from what Sony told Brazil in their phase 1 finding. But we'll get to that some other time. I'm gonna get a pen. I'm gonna put a panel together, man. We're gonna dissect this whole thing when it's all over. Man, y'all gonna be like, man, I done already reached out to some people too. So they ready. So we don't think it's feasible or realistic to think that one game or one slice of this company can be carved out and separated from the rest Smith said. Global regulators have a choice: block the deal or let the future go forward with behavioral guardrails and remedies and bring this title to 150 million more people. Wow. You know who they talking to. You know who they talking to. Well, see, that's the thing, other Zink. There is some other things in place. Even if the UK, even if the EU decline, there is steps in place to challenge their decision. There's like that's like the same. There's processes in place if the UK declines the deal. There's ways Microsoft could challenge in UK. I know people on the internet and on Twitter saying, "Hey, if the CMA block is nothing Microsoft can do, it's over." That is not true. That is not true. That is not true. And I think I'm gonna gather that information. I'm gonna do a show. I'm gonna break that all down. I don't know if I'm gonna put it in a tweet or if I'm gonna just go live and break everything down on the options that Microsoft have if the UK decides to block and what type of process they will have to go through, because there is a process that they can go through to challenge the CMA's decision. And recently it happened where somebody challenged their decision and won. But we'll get to that some other time, all right? Microsoft proposed Activision Blizzard deal is the company's largest ever and one of the 30 biggest acquisitions of all time. Aside from Call of Duty, antitrust regulators are concerned about Microsoft's leading position in cloud gaming. Cloud gaming doesn't exist, right? Right? Really? Nvidia got theirs out. It's on the market. Amazon got their foot in, foot out in Luna. We don't really hear nothing about Luna. Stadia is no longer exists. PS Now, Sony really took more back into VR than they have their own cloud infrastructure. And then Microsoft has xCloud, which is still in beta. It is not even an official product yet. So you can't block the deal off probability of what you assuming that Microsoft will be able to do. Because at the end of the day, the customers still have to make the choice, right? Just because Microsoft have the cloud infrastructure and all of that, it still comes down to the customer whether they choose that cloud infrastructure to access their content. And who's to say that everybody is going to flock to Microsoft as their number one provider in cloud? So you're going off maybe Mike could. You have no evidence that people will flock to the service or even choose Microsoft as their service. Yes, K. Asante, the CAT process. And it goes a little bit beyond that. When somebody just challenged the UK decision recently, as of last year, I think, and won. So there's still avenues that Microsoft can pursue. And lately they show that they are willing to fight for this deal. They're willing to fight for ABK. Not as a divested company, not as in breaking up a company or anything like that, but as a Activision Blizzard king. And I think they're going to do whatever they need to do to get it done. Hence, you got Xbox games and Activision game going to Nintendo Switch. You got Xbox PC games and Activision games going to Nvidia. Yeah, y'all look. Because the overall agenda is bigger than this Call of Duty. Call of Duty ain't even the main thing we looking at. And there's more value elsewhere in this deal than in Call of Duty. But since Sony made it about Call of Duty, made it about one IP, let's see. The technology is still in its early days, but Microsoft is ahead of the pack with its Xbox Game Pass subscription service. Yes, they're ahead of the pack. Because after Sony stumped them out in a buy-to-play model, they had to change the game up. They had to find another way to compete with Sony because they couldn't compete with them on the buy-to-play model. Sony is, in essence, Sony is gaming. They are the biggest. They are one of the biggest, if not the biggest, brand in gaming. PlayStation is synonymous with gaming, right? Some people still buy PlayStation just because it's PlayStation. That's how powerful the brand is, right? Sony put PS Now and their cloud service on the back burner. Is that Microsoft's fault? No. Microsoft started investing in data centers in the late 90s and early 2000s. Is it Microsoft's fault that Sony didn't make that choice somewhere in the 90s to do the same? No. Even though Xbox don't even use, it might use Azure locations, but it don't use PC hardware to stream games, right? Which offers a library more than 300 titles for about $10 a month for gamers who want to download games to play on the Xbox or PC. A higher tier of the subscription at $15 a month includes cloud gaming, which enables subscribers to stream certain games onto any device, even tablets and phones. By bringing Activision titles like Candy Crush and Call of Duty under its roof, Microsoft is betting that it will be able to offer more games to its Game Pass subscribers. While Tuesday hearing focuses on the EU's concerns, authorities in the US and the UK have all started procedures that could potentially block the deal amid concerns that Microsoft will take an early lead in the cloud by adding Activision games, eventually making them all exclusive to its own platform. Could potentially. You see that? Could and potentially. So you're trying to block a deal of what you think might happen. It's not necessarily guaranteed that Microsoft is going to be the leader in cloud. You never know. Other companies might come along. You never know what could happen. None of us have a crystal ball. And like I said, the gamers have to make the choice to make Microsoft to lead the leader in cloud. They have to choose Microsoft as the cloud. And who's to say everybody is going to triculate over to xCloud? So this probability mess, and that's what the FTC and the CMA, well, we want to block the deal because this could happen, this might happen, this may happen. And that was all that was in the provisional findings, even in phase one. The CMA had no evidence to back up none of the stuff they were saying. It was all might, could, would. Britain's Competition and Market Authority's presents possibly the biggest hurdle yet after the agencies earlier this month suggested a number of structural remedies, including the divestiture of the business associated with Call of Duty, the Activision part of the business, or blocking the merger altogether. Microsoft and other interested parties have until Wednesday to respond to the CMA's provisional findings, okay? All right? And so that's tomorrow, right? That's tomorrow. So Microsoft pretty much has a clear picture now. They know the EU's, the European Commission issues with the statements of objection, which is confidential, which is why we haven't seen everything that's in there, but we kind of got the operating system, cloud, and multi subscriptions and things like that. We know that's where their issues lies, right? So now they got a clear picture of what the CMA is opposed to and what the European Commission opposed to. And if they're similar, now that they have Nvidia, Valve, Nintendo, right, possibly Google, all on the same page, right? So now they can say, look, these companies that talk to you that had issues with it, they no longer have these issues anymore, right? They no longer have these issues with the deal no more, right? These are what we offered the European Commission, and we think it'll suffice with you as well. What the CMA does after that, we don't know, right? A hearing to discuss potential remedies will take place in London later this month, right? So they're going to have a hearing with the CMA later this month. If we can address these issues in Brussels, if we can sort through things in London, I'm optimistic that we'll advance from Washington, D.C. as well, Smith said in an interview on Bloomberg TV. I think if the UK and the European Commission approve the deal, then the FTC is going to accept concessions as well. And if not, Microsoft just going to close the deal anyway and call the FTC's bluff and say, take us to court because we know you don't have a case and you're going to lose. Then the ball will be in the FTC court where they want to continue to waste taxpayer dollars on cases that are not winnable. Earlier Tuesday, Smith said the company was more than willing, given our strategy, to address the concerns that others have, whether it's by contracts like we did with Nintendo this morning, or whether it's by regulatory undertaking, as we've consistently been open to addressing. He was referring to the signing of a 10-year agreement with Nintendo that will bring Call of Duty to Nintendo devices. Microsoft last year already publicly offered to give other rivals, Sony Group Corp, a similar license for the blockbuster game. Smith used the press conference to implore Sony to agree to the pact in order to bring the games to a wider audience. He said he was ready to pull out a pen for Sony to sign one as he brandished on stage what he said was the actual agreement. Okay. Microsoft recently received the EU regulator's initial findings in a so-called statement of objection, or SO, laying out the bloc's key concerns about the deal, according to people familiar with the review. Together with the EU hearing, which included Activision Chief Executive Officer Bobby Kotick, Nvidia, as well as about 100 lawyers. Wow. Wow, 100 lawyers. That's crazy. What time is it? Okay, 2:45. All right. That is crazy. That is crazy. 100 lawyers? Yo, these lawyers getting bread right now. These lawyers are getting bread right now. Somebody gonna be named partner after this. Top shotter with the $5. Thank you for your support, brother. Microsoft can take the CMA to the UK Supreme Court. Is the deciding factor for international disagreement. Look it up. Cat is not the highest. Yep. I know. Yep. And I know that for a fact because a recent case last year, it got took to the UK Supreme Court and the CMA lost. Yep. Others say coulda, shoulda, woulda. Right? I don't know. But 100 lawyers? Man, bro. Joe. Man, I need to rewind time, bro, and then go to law school. You feel me? Because they out here eating. So Nvidia, as well as about 100 lawyers, officials, and critics, Sony and Alphabet Incorporation. The SO will set the path for Microsoft to submit formal remedies in the coming weeks. The EU aims to finalize its review by April 11, but the date could be pushed back still. The UK probe is set to conclude by April 26. In the US, the Federal Trade Commission is locked in a potentially far longer process after formally suing to veto the transaction. Yeah, the FTC gonna be in a bind. If Microsoft can clear the CMA in UK, then that FTC case ain't gonna go for a very long time. Microsoft gonna close anyway, regardless. They already said they would, right? Okay, game over. Okay, Sony continues to deny the opportunity for a long-term agreement and is undermining the deal to protect its 2-decade dominance in video games, an Activision Blizzard spokesperson said. Mm, mm, mm. Yeah, yeah. This is this is facts. Asante is another brother. I'm gonna get on the panel when all is said and done. We're gonna dissect this thing. Fox, they could also add the Edge browser, to the Nintendo Switch. Yes, can easily be placed on the Switch. That opens the door to the whole cloud catalog. Yep, and Game Pass. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hey, TBCW, bro. These lawyers out here getting to that bag, bro. Somebody go get named partner after this. Somebody on Sony side or Microsoft side. If this deal go through, all right? Or if it don't go through, all right? So yeah, man. That's the news for the day. I still gotta go fast some things because stuff is moving fast right now. Yeah, just to be clear, any confusion, the Nvidia agreement is for all Xbox games that are on PC. Plus Activision Blizzard titles if the deal goes through. Right? The Nintendo agreement is just for Call of Duty. Nope, that's not true. He tweaking because we just read different. Unless the reporting is wrong on this case. Let's see here. Oh, maybe Eurogamer made a mistake. Maybe Eurogamer made a mistake. Okay, so let me do this here. Let me just check to see if there's any new further updates. What is this? He did say that. That was back in August 2020. Xbox boss Phil Spencer. We don't care if the PS5 sells more. It's not about the hardware no more with Microsoft. That ain't where the money is. That's actually where you lose money. All right, so I think that's it for now. Yeah, that's it for now. I got to get ready and go get my children from school as well. So where we're at, we are. Let's see, 2 hours. I didn't even know I went 2 hours, man. Solo dolo, you feel me? Solo dolo. Look, I want to thank you, all the 150 people that showed up today, to hear my perspective and opinion on what went down today in Brussels. Microsoft, I think they made an incredible move today in terms of kind of isolating some of the, not also isolating, but neutralizing some of the opposition that was against this deal and get them over into on their court. All right, Nvidia, Nintendo, Valve, EA. That's strong. That's strong. You're pretty much taking with all those publishers and stuff agreeing with this deal. Because this deal, Microsoft getting Activision benefits them as well. I think we'll talk about that too after everything is said and done, and we get a final verdict on whether this deal go through. we'll talk about why EA and publishers like Take-Two and Ubisoft don't have an issue with this with this deal. And it has something to do with Call of Duty. It has something to do with Call of Duty. Because they all compete against Call of Duty, the Rainbow Sixes, the Apexes, and things like that. Take Two ain't worried about it. They got the biggest juggernaut in the world in GTA, and they know whenever they drop a GTA, nothing outside of Minecraft, nothing can really compare to it. It's in the upper echelon of things. It's in what we often say the upper room. The upper room. So what I'm gonna end it here. All right. I've been going for 2 hours. I got to go get the children. I just wanted to go live because there's only so much you can put in a Twitter post, and sometimes I want to talk to y'all and have a conversation with y'all, and we can go back and forth. Hey, other Zink, that's what they look. You know, you feel me? I ain't got a towel, you know what I'm saying? My invisible towel, you feel me? My invisible towel, you feel me? They do call me the lawyer, you know what I'm saying? The armchair lawyer. Maybe I get partner at the armchair lawyer organization of America. You feel me? Maybe I get that, you know what I'm saying? Maybe I get CEO at the Armchair Lawyer of America Association or something, you know what I'm saying? I ain't saying, you feel me? That's what they call me, you feel me? But I just wanted to, sometimes I feel just like hopping on and conversing with you all and us having a conversation. I know I missed a lot in the chat, you know what I'm saying? But as long as you all can have a conversation amongst each other, I could go back and watch the show or check the chat. Make sure y'all comment and stuff like that. If y'all have any questions like that for me, leave them in the comment. As this thing plays out, we're going to continue our coverage on this thing. Like I say, it's bigger than gaming at this point. This deal has an impact on the tech industry and the gaming industry as a whole. And the future outlook on how acquisitions and mergers will exist in the future, and how big tech and companies will be able to maneuver around this pushback, especially in the political climate that we're in. So I want to thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for supporting. I really appreciate it. We had over 150 people here watching. And so that's my opinion. That's my perspective on what's going on. I wasn't even ready for this. That Nvidia deal just totally sidetracked, like came out of nowhere. Who knew? Because yesterday and a couple of days ago, everybody on Twitter was saying Nvidia and Sony and Google was against the deal, and that Microsoft had issues and problems. And now today comes, and Sony is pretty much out there by themselves again, like they was when the deal initially was announced. This is crazy. Microsoft is playing chess, not checkers. I think we all thought that Microsoft had their limits in terms of the things, what they were willing to give up. Microsoft, look, Nvidia, look, we got you. We're going to take care of you. Come over here. We got you. Google, we'll figure out something. We know you concerned about your duopoly on the App Store. We'll figure something out. So now Sony is out there by themselves, and all I want to know is, what does the CMA does now? Now that Nvidia, EA, Valve, Activision, Take-Two, and everybody else is residing with Microsoft. Does this impact the CMA's decision? Right? Are they still going to look for structural remedies, regardless of the outcome that came today? And if the European Commission does decide to approve the deal, then how does that affect the CMA's decision? Does that allow the CMA to become less lenient and go with access remedies versus structural remedies? Or do the CMA maintain their stubbornness, right, and continue to side with Sony and continue to push for divestitures? I don't know. We'll see how all this plays out, okay? It's interesting, and it's going to be interesting. All I know is after this, I don't know how many more publishers are going to be purchased in the industry. And if it do, it might not come from Microsoft or Sony. It might come from somebody on the outside, because this is a lot. This is a lot, but it's the first in the history of this industry, and so I'm glad that we'll be able to partake into it together. So whether it goes through or not, we'll see. Whether you for the deal or against the deal, thank you for showing up. Thank you for being a part of the conversation. You guys have a great day. All right, you guys have a great day. I'm going to go get ready and go get my little ones from school. All right, y'all have a good one, man. Peace.
Ted, pop your shit.
Man over madness, grind over habit. We never had it. Check off the box on the bag list. Now we established from the block to the palace. Usage and salvage. Now we about it. Traveling thousand. Rich or poor, we breaking the balance. Wanted change, stood at the ballot. Didn't get a thing, so I stood with my talent. Up in the clouds, collecting the mileage. Soon we hit land, we up at the challenge. Dodging anything that's bringing us malice. Got hit in the cup, can't sip from that chalice. Trying to see life from a different view. Checking all sides, my peripheral. We up now, that's the pinnacle. The inner you. Eyes stuck on the inner tube. Perception got them in V2. They all gas like an inner tube. Took a small break just to interlude. Now we in the groove. Took a couple losses, we was 10-2. Before the turn, it was 10-2. Got it hand over hand like we 10-2. Cause when you down and out, they don't pin to you. Still we made it. From the land where they take that, they don't play fair. Lost a lot of niggas, fell off with niggas, I don't really care. Hell with them now, whether tried to fail with them now. So we out here until we out of here, looking up now, past the stratosphere.
Came a long way, I was eating cereal, sell as fuck. Couple OT shifts back to back, that was 12 a month. Seeing pain often got me asking, nigga, what the hell you want? Rather pay up front before I pay up front. You can say I didn't, never say I won't. Fast forward, that's crash course. I was broke, unattached headboard. Used to laugh at me, life was comical. We up now, astronomical. Our lowest points was a plateau. Blessed after being back dope. We was on the business, then it went sour. We still made it, that's a different power. Gotta watch your 6 when they on your 20. Every day I smile through the horribles. Oracles telling me I got a few minutes, it was a quarter to vulnerable visions. I'm making it out of it. Portable audibles, pardon me, possibly. Circle with smallest apostrophes. Making monopolies out of these lyrics, commodities, obviously. Welcome to the deli, felonies. He called allegedly. Fuel for the fire, especially. It was the recipe, open sesame. All this pain never overstressing me. God did, he was over testing me. Get a lesson, never get a lesson me. Back to business, cause he over blessing me. That's the turn, nigga. It's my turn, nigga. It's our turn, nigga.